Hey guys. Hey, welcome to A Penny for Your Thoughts. Nena,
Hi.
it's happening.
Yes.
This is
Here
Nena
we are.
McCaffrey. I'm Steve Hayes, and we're so glad that you joined us on this episode. We're here to help you with your anxiety, but not just anxiety, right? Anger, fear, discouragement, all that type of stuff.
Depression.
Right? Sadness, right? This is brought to us by Happy Life Studios. You know, we want to start a happy-demic is what we want to do. And would you say that a lot of those things are related?
Yes, I would.
Like how?
A lot of those cause the other one. They feed into each other.
They're like siblings in a large family, right? So you're saying anxiety can feed anger, anger can feed anxiety.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you say that if you deal with one, you're kind of dealing with the others as well?
Yes, I would.
That's good. Because I think there's a lot of us that feel like you didn't even know what anxiety was, right?
No.
And how many years had you struggled with anxiety before you figured out what it was that you struggled with?
I think it was like 14 years.
Wow. Seriously?
Yeah.
Man. Listen, there's more on Nena's story. We did a couple podcasts together. All you have to do is search Happy Life Studios from wherever you watch podcasts, or from Pandora, or from Spotify, anything like that. And just search Happy Life Studios and you'll find us. And then search Nena, or it's right around episode 213. You were our first ever Limelight episode. We're gonna do more of those, but you're our first ever one where we find a hero that no one else maybe notices, and we put him in the limelight, and that's you, Nena. And so there's more about Nena on there. We'll get more in her story as time goes on. This isn't just a one video thing. This is going to be multiple things because there's so much stuff going on right now, and we want to help with that. We want to be a part of the solution, right? Not a part of the problem. And when we were recording that podcast, I got the idea, Nena, what if we did something to help in this area? And you said you were excited about that. And I'm like, so that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So
when I listened to my podcast episode, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, but then I remember, that was me talking.
Well, so getting back to my thought I just had earlier, that you struggled with anxiety for 14 years, didn't even know what it was. And I think there's a lot of people out there that might have anxiety but don't know it. There's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily know what a panic attack is. We'll talk about those more down the road, right? But this isn't just about, so if everything's related, all these negative emotions tend to lead into each other. And we tend to want to forget the negative emotions, but can you just ignore anxiety? Can you just ignore anger? Can you just ignore depression?
Just like you can ignore a pot of boiling water. It's going to overflow one day.
That's really good. That's really good.
So, sure, you can ignore it, but the longer you ignore it,
it's not going away. Like boiling water will actually dissipate into the air, but this doesn't go away.
Well, yeah, so the longer that you have anxiety, it typically takes you longer to get out of it because the habits and the patterns of thinking that help develop anxiety are, I guess, more ingrained. So it become harder to unlearn. So my suggestion would be the sooner the better, or else you're just creating more.
It's like the doctors say, I'm glad we caught this early. They're always telling you, go in for your exam. Oh, we caught it in the early stages. And so I feel like there's a lot of anger in our society today. There's a lot of scary stuff going on, Yeah. And so I think there's people go, well, I don't struggle with anxiety. Well, number one, you might, okay? But number two, if you struggle with worry or fear or depression or sadness or anger, or find yourself when you're driving in the car, you're immediately getting angry at everybody and anybody for just about anything, this is going to help them with that. Would you say that?
Yes, and also, I know people who don't have anxiety like I had, where it's like chronic anxiety, but I can see their lifestyle patterns of thinking and talking and behaving, where I think to myself, man, if they don't get a hold on that soon, they're going to end up where I ended up.
Wow. So you can tell just by looking at some people's actions where they're headed if they don't do something about that.
Well, yeah, because through my class, we learned what all of that is, so I can easily spot it in people.
Wow. Wow.
I guess.
So how do you feel about where a lot of the countries are today with, COVID going on, with the demonstrations going on? There's a lot of unrest in the world. Do you see a lot of stuff happening down the road if people don't deal with this stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can't control what's going on in the world, and if you can't let it affect you. And I'm talking to myself too. Like, you can't let what's going on out there affect what's going on in your home and in here. And so you have to really filter what you're letting into your heart, into your ears. So a lot of that is social media. You got to filter that social media. You have to take care of yourself, because a lot of what's going on out there can affect you without even knowing it. So,
Was it when the computers came out, they had a term called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, and whatever you feed yourself is what comes out of you, and there's a lot of garbage flying around out there.
And so for me personally, like, since taking my class, like, I've really recovered a lot from anxiety, but in the last few months, I've had anxiety again. And
right?
Me
like, too.
Okay, I have to go back to the drawing board, and I have to recognize, okay, what's causing this? And so I know a lot of it is just the world's events right now, or what's going on, like, locally where I live in California. And so I've had to practice some discipline and decrease my screen time on social media. And as soon as as I did, and my mind wasn't dwelling on all of that, I noticed, my anxiety's kind of eased up. So things like that you have to be aware of.
Yeah, I find myself, like, every other day, my wife's saying the same thing to me. Steve, everyone's feeling like that right now. I keep saying, why am I feeling this way? Why am I so tired? Why am I so irritable? Why am I biting my nails all of a sudden? I haven't bitten my nails for years, and my wife reminds me, everyone's feeling that way right now.
Which is comforting in a way.
It is comforting. You're exactly right.
We're not the only ones.
Speaking of we're not the only ones, okay.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Talk to us about A Penny for Your Thoughts. Why call this A Penny for Your Thoughts?
Okay, so several years ago, I was talking to a friend from church. He was an older guy from church, and he told me that one day he went out on a run, and he doesn't run anymore, but he used to run a lot. And during that time in his life, his grandson was going in for major surgery, and of course he was worried about it. So one day he went out on a run somewhere that was very rural, basically where typically nobody should ever be. Like, so if he went running, and he finds this penny on the trail or just in the dirt or whatever. And that was significant to him, because he's like, a penny would only be out here if, like, there were people out here, you drop. And he's like, there's no logical reason why there should just be a penny right there.
Because you said it was so rural.
Yeah, and
no one ever runs out there. No one ever goes out there. There's no roads or anything like that. He's running out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. And it wasn't like it was underneath dirt or anything. It was right on top, like this bright, shiny penny. Like,
okay.
There's no logical reason why that should be there. And so to him, that was just a little message from God saying, like, I'm going to take care of your grandson. I'm here. And it was a source of comfort and reassurance to him.
Because he was actually on his run. He was actually trying to communicate with his Creator, right?
Exactly.
Saying, what do I do with my grandson here? I'm scared. I'm angry. Yeah. Show me something, right?
Yeah. And so he told me that story, and he said, I challenge you to ask God to speak to you in that way, to show you pennies wherever you're at, or to show you pennies in the most random places. That way you know that's God speaking to you.
So how did you feel when he said that? I mean, what did that make you feel like inside?
I was like, oh yeah, because I feel like I hear God's voice very easily, but I just find it so fascinating when you can take a tangible, very normal...
Now I want to stop for people that might think, like, wait, what's this? What do you mean you hear God's voice? What does that mean to you? Do you mean God guides you, or do you actually hear his voice out loud?
I don't hear him. The way that I hear God's voice is I get a feeling.
You get a feeling, yeah. He guides you,
yeah.
Like he was, like people could say when that guy saw the penny that God spoke to him, but it wasn't like God said, "Here's a penny, look at it." It's like a feeling that he got inside. Okay, I just want to clarify that. So,
yeah, like I get like impressions, feelings, and I've learned when it's God and when it's not.
Okay.
And so he challenged me, ask God to speak to you that way for the sake of like just becoming closer friends with God. And so I did, and I thought that was really cool, like challenge accepted. And so I've been doing that for several years, and just, I personally have really cool stories of coming across pennies, and a lot of times, like in the most random places where, why is there a penny? Where I just know that was God speaking to me, and like God and I know what that penny means to me in that moment. So
it's like God recognizes you in that situation, and you're not looking for a penny. You just all of a sudden you're anxious, you're fearful, you're angry, whatever.
Yeah, and you find it at the right time.
Has that how often has that happened to you? 1 time, 2 times, 10 times?
Oh, several times a week.
Wow. So several times a week, it's like God is revealing himself to you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So a penny for your thoughts. So whenever you see a penny, you're reminded that you're not alone.
Yeah, that's God's way of saying I'm with you. It's for me, it's a source of like He remembers me. If I'm dealing with something, that's kind of like my reassurance from God, that comfort that like He's got me. I'm good.
Just knowing that someone notices what you're going through. Like how often have you sharing some tragic story with someone, or you're really, upset about something, and someone says, "Yeah, I get it. I went through that too," and you're like, "Oh, you too," and it just feels nice to know. And so we want to let you guys know in this, this very first episode that you're not alone, And that penny, the reason it meant something to him is like it was out of place.
Exactly.
If it was downtown or in a mall or, where people were, you wouldn't even think twice about that penny. But he's in the middle of nowhere.
And it's bright and shiny, not covered up in dirt. It's just right there.
And so it shouldn't even have been covered in dirt for all that matter if it's out there in the middle of nowhere, all the rain, all the, And so I think, I think anxiety is a lot like that. I think anger is a lot like that. I think fear is a lot like that. I think sadness is a lot like that. It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't belong there. All of a sudden you're just having have you guys ever had that moment where you're feeling all right, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere you get this feeling of despair or sadness, or that penny doesn't belong there, right? And anxiety doesn't belong there either. Sadness does not belong there. Feelings we're meant to have feelings, right? They help us, but we'll talk more about that down the road, the role that feelings play in our lives. But, and anxiety even, there's even some positive things. Would you say some positive things that can come out of anxiety?
Oh, yeah.
And we'll talk about more of those down the road. Just like COVID-19 right now, the coronavirus, there's some positive things that also can be happening out of that. The Bible actually says that God says all things will work together for good to those that love Him, and so God will turn. But there's good stuff happening too. So feelings are there for a reason, right? But we don't have to carry around anxiety. Would you say that?
Yeah, I hear people say sometimes, "I have anxiety," or
I'm just an anxious person,
or like, I can't because I haven't. Which I get, because I have anxiety, and I used to have it really bad. But sometimes I think a lot of people have this view of anxiety that it's like a chronic disease that just happened that they can't can't get rid of, or this is just the cards I've been dealt. Like, it's one thing like if all of a sudden you've got a disease in your body that came out of nowhere and there's nothing you can do about it, except, do your best to treat it.
But anxiety is not necessarily like that.
No,
you can deal with anxiety.
When people have that kind of view of anxiety, to be honest, it really annoys me.
Really? Really?
It does, because anxiety, I don't think we realize how much of a role we have played to become an anxious person. And anxiety is not permanent. It's not like a disease that you can't get rid of. Like, if we played a role in creating it, like, there is definitely, and I know there is,
role that we can play in getting rid of it.
Yeah, it's just anxiety basically is made up of habits that we have learned in the course of our lifetime.
Stresses, tragic events happening.
Yeah, all of that. And so, although we can't change our past and things that have happened to us or whatever,
right?
But there are behavioral patterns and patterns of thinking that are all on us.
And Nena knows that
Accountability.
because Nena, when you find out her story, and like I said, go search Hopi Road, search Happy Life Studios and look for Nena. Search that or search her Hopi Road. I think it's episode 213, and you'll understand that Nena knows what she's talking about here. Or maybe it was your Limelight one, but it was one of those two. But you know that for a fact. I mean, you're not making that up because you were sidelined with. I mean, you were paralyzed with anxiety.
Yeah. So if we have anxiety, like I hate it when people have this attitude, like, oh, I'm stuck with this. Like, no, you're not. Like. You can choose to not be an anxious person.
And you don't. Well, and it's not just the first thing is you got to choose, right? But then there's some other things that you can do
there are practical things you can do, so that you don't have to. Like, it's not a life sentence, and I feel like a lot of the message put out there about mental health is it's like a disease that we can only manage, we can't cure, and like I just don't believe that. Now, if you don't stay on top of it, then you're going to become an anxious person. So yeah, in that sense, like you always have to be on top of your anxiety. But the way I didn't have to stay like that. Like you can do something about it, and I just don't think a lot of people know that. And I could go off on a tangent, but just I don't know, just the message put out there about mental health is, oh, this is something that somehow we
just deal with it. So just take the pills that you have to take, and I don't have a problem with taking pills, but you were, I mean, Nena was at the point where she couldn't leave her house. Your husband had to drive you everywhere, had to take you grocery shopping, had to do all that stuff, and now you're a completely different person, but you've learned some things, and that's what we're super excited about here. We're not here just to talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on. We're here to talk about some solutions to help with that. So every episode you want to watch, because every episode we're going to talk about another hack, another tip, another pointer that you can take that's going to be simple for you. But if you use that, you'll become less anxious, you'll become less angry, you'll become less discouraged, you'll become more happy, you'll become more peaceful, you'll become more victorious, And so that's what we're going to do on every episode. And for this one, I think the biggest thing is that I'm not going to give you we're not going to give you a happy hack right here, a happy tip right here, but we're setting you up with the biggest thing of all, and that's that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. You're not alone, And that penny was out of place. Mm-hmm. But he was searching for an answer to his problems, your friend was, and he found that penny that was out of place. And through that, God revealed to him that he wasn't alone, and that God's got this, and that God's got you. Mm-hmm. In the same way that anxiety is out of place in your life, right? Mm-hmm. In your lice. Anxiety is out of place in your life, right? Lice is out of place too. Anxiety is like lice, right? Get it out of my head, man. Get it, and you gotta, and when I've never had it, but I've had friends that have it, we got a common friend that had it, and she's got hair out to here, and I mean, they had to go through you have to, but there's thoughts, and it's like lice that gets hidden in our craw, gets hidden in our brain that you need somebody else to go through with a fine-tooth comb and let's pull that thought out of there. Let's pull that misconception out of there. Let's pull that bad perception out of there. Let's pull this, And so that's what we want to do. We don't want to do it all at once because you can't. It just takes a long time. But every week we're going to pull out another lice, right? We're going to pull out another worm that got into our brain that's affecting us to live in a way less than we can live. Just like that penny shouldn't have been there, anxiety shouldn't be there either. Fear shouldn't be there. It is there, but we can learn to handle that, and that's what these things are going to be all about. And in the same way that God took that penny that didn't belong there, and he changed this man's life with it, and that then changed Nena's life with it. And now whenever Nena sees a penny somewhere that's out of place, but now she sees a penny, she's like, wait a minute, God's trying to say something to me. Have there been times too you told me when you weren't even necessarily thinking about a problem, or you weren't even thinking about God, but you saw that penny and then you went, wait a minute, what's God trying to show me? And all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, it was like God was tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, I want to show you something. Yep. I want to reveal something to you,
Yeah. So it takes time and habits to develop anxiety, and it'll take time and learning new habits
But we can do it.
To unlearn. Yeah.
And doesn't it feel good when you did ever feel like you could see yourself getting better as time went on? And how did that feel for you?
It felt freeing. Like today I went to Target and I was waiting in line to check out, and I just had this thought, this realization, like, wow, like I'm, like just the fact that I can stand here in line and wait for several minutes to check out, I'm just like, man, that is
But
awesome.
the old Nena would have been what?
Oh, I couldn't stand in line. I'd have a panic attack, and I'd be very panicky, and like, I need to get out of here. And it's just like little things like that. Like, I can stand in line, like all these normal people around me. I'll just use that as, as a general term. That I can just do something very normal. Like, man, this is awesome.
So in the past, you would have felt like you didn't feel like you were normal. You, like that penny, felt you were out of place. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like now I can be like all the normal people, like, because you felt out of place before, but you don't necessarily feel out of place like that anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah. And it's just little things like that. Like, man, I can drive. I can stand in line in a crowded store and like be calm, like just be normal. And like, when you can do just everyday little things like that
you couldn't have done before because of the anxiety it stalemated you.
For me, I'm like, that's
pretty cool.
This is freedom. Like, I have freedom to live my life. I couldn't do this before. Like,
we even thought about calling this Freedom Road there for a little while.
Well, yeah, that was the name of my class. Probably can't.
Well, that's probably where it's come from. Yeah, the name of your class is called Freedom Road that you took. So, all right, Nena, thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to do this thing. I want you to look in that camera, and I want you to look at the people that are watching right now. What would you say to them, about this whole thing? Just wrap it up into a sentence or two and tell them, what would you say to the people that are struggling with anxiety, fear, hopelessness, discouragement, anger, whatever?
Mm-hmm. I would say, first of all, like, you aren't alone. And I know that sounds super cliche, and I don't like cliches, but it's true. Like, you're not alone. Like, millions of people struggle with this. We just don't know it because anxiety and, depression, fear, whatever, a lot of times what comes with that is shame, and we're so embarrassed to like say I'm struggling with this. So the fact that this is more common than you realize, I hope that would help you realize you are not mentally insane. You're not crazy.
Right.
Because I thought I was, and my biggest fear was, am I going to end up in like a mental health institute? Like, that was my greatest fear.
I remember driving past, when I was going through it, I remember driving past a mental hospital, and I'm like, how much longer before I end up there? And I started thinking my kids are going to grow up without a dad to hang out at home. I mean, I remember that fear. I remember that too.
That was my worst fear. And gosh, what, but, so you're not crazy. This is very normal what people struggle with, especially here in America with our very busy culture. And
especially now with all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah. So, like I said a few minutes ago, anxiety is not a life sentence. Just because you have it, you don't have to keep having it. You can actually do something about it to be free and free to live your life again. And so I hope, whatever Steve-O and I talk about would really allow you to do that and give you hope and give you freedom.
I am excited to go on this journey with you, and I am super excited to go on this journey with you. You are not alone. So if you know of somebody that's struggling, tag them in this thing, send it to them, share it, all that type stuff. But we're going to come back here on a regular basis and give you stuff to help you through this. Be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. We are going to spread a happy-demic, and we are going to become free.
Yes.
Cool.